Curiosity, instinct, and inquisitiveness provoke questions about death in the living. As seeking creatures, we are more accepting of change if we understand it, and death is arguably the biggest change one encounters. It is an end. It is an unresolved yet ever-present aspect of our existence, and people often look to religion to fill the desire to know what happens after we die. Hello and welcome to tonight's episode of Inquisitivities. The question for tonight is, how do world religions answer questions about what happens after we die? The two religions we'll be looking at are Christianity and Buddhism. Between and within these religions, diverging and complex beliefs are held about what follows death, including how the afterlife is made possible, immediate post-death versus eternity, and the consequences in the afterlife. Despite the notable difference in belief and practices, both Buddhism and Christianity contemplate two outcomes of life, a positive or negative existence to follow, which is determined by one's actions. Through teachings, these religions guide their followers to a favourable final existence. To begin, let's investigate if and how life after death is possible for these two religions. In Christianity, the concept of life after death is key to believers. The Bible is the basis of all Christian belief. The traditional Christian view has always been that those who believe will share eternal joy with God in heaven, while those who refuse God's love suffer endless separation from God, which is supported by the book of Matthew, as it says, "These people will go away into eternal punishment, but the righteous will go into eternal life." Through the books of John, Matthew, Luke, Corinthians, Thessalonians, Proverbs, Acts, and so on, believers are reassured of an everlasting life. God promises a paradise awaiting those who live righteously. The concept of life after death in Christianity is made possible through the resurrection of Jesus. Jesus suffered crucifixion and rose again on the third day, enabling the sins of the world to be forgiven and granting believers the chance to reunite with God upon death, as Jesus says in John 25. "I am the resurrection of the life. He who believes in me will live even though he dies." Buddhists believe that life after death is possible, however through a transmission of consciousness and not resurrection. The most well-known Buddhist sacred text is the Tripitaka. It addresses death and life as being things without finality and refers to the doctrines karma, samsara, nirvana, and dukkha. Samsara is a cycle of life, death, and rebirth, but not the transmission of the soul in the way of reincarnation. The Buddhist doctrine Anatta details the belief of no soul or no self, and furthermore, Theravada scholar Wapula Rahula states after death, energies do not die with it, but continue to take some other shape or form, which we call another life. This rebirth is pivotal in the teachings of Buddha and allows imperfect beings to grow spiritually over the course of many lifetimes. Buddhists believe reincarnation as the Buddha taught that long is a cycle of birth and death to the fool who does not know the true path, states the Dhammapada, a religious Buddhist text. Now that we've established that life after death is possible for Christians and Buddhists, let's explore the journey of a believer immediately after death through to their eternal life. Despite traditional belief, there are two views commonly held amongst Christians about what immediately follows death. For example, Seventh-day Adventists believe that the person will lay lifeless in their grave until the resurrection of the righteous when Jesus comes to earth again, compared to Catholics who have belief in an immediate resurrection where God judges the dead and permits them to hell or banishes them to hell accordingly. The final existence of Christians is dependent on the denomination. For example, Seventh-day Adventists believe that the wicked do not endure hell for all eternity, but when they find their faith in God, they are granted forgiveness, and the final existence for most is in heaven with God. This is different to the Catholic belief that hell is permanent after death, meaning that God's initial judgment determines one eternity. Two diverging beliefs regarding what occurs immediately after death are held by Buddhist schools Tibetan Buddhism and Theravada Buddhism. Tibetan Buddhists believe in the concept of bardo, or intermediate state, in which one's consciousness is not connected to a physical existence. In this state, they are susceptible to hallucinations that can be either positive or negative, depending on one's accumulated karma. Through channeling positivity during these hallucinations and harboring good karma, one is more likely to be reborn into a higher realm, conducive for reaching enlightenment. Another belief is that one is immediately reborn into a new life, in which the conditions completely depend on the karma generated in their previous lives. The final resting place of Buddhists is that nirvana, where they have reached enlightenment after all the necessary lessons in life have been lived and experienced and the cycle of samsara is broken. Finally, let's address how each religion interprets the way actions affect one's life after death. Christians believe that the actions of an individual determine if they are accepted or punished by God after death. The nature of cause and effect is prevalent early on in the Bible as God delivers the Ten Commandments. For Christians, believing in Jesus, following the Bible, and displaying the necessary characteristics will give one the chance to be reunited with God and Jesus in heaven after death. Christians are also taught about the punishment of wrongdoings and the result of these acts, such as being condemned to time in hell. Karma is the belief that the actions of one have repercussions that can occur throughout future lifetimes, and that the circumstances we face today are the result of our actions in past lifetimes. This belief justifies the suffering humans inevitably experience, whilst reinforcing a trust in Buddha, who guides us to be released from the cycle of life, death, and rebirth through nirvana. Those following Theravada Buddhism believe that if one is able to reach enlightenment during his lifetime, then they are released from the cycle of samsara. This contrasts the Mahayana belief of two types of reincarnation, a karmic one and a spiritual reincarnation, where saints and high beings can be reincarnated into different bodies in order to assist the living on their path to enlightenment. Nirvana is not a place as in Christians have thinking of heaven. If attained whilst living, it is more of a state of mind. Those who have attained nirvana fully understand the way things really are, and upon their physical deaths are released from samsara. However, those who have not reached enlightenment have produced bad and good karma over the course of their lifetime, and the result of their karma must come to effect, so they must continue to be trapped in samsara. Through investigating Christianity and Buddhism, we can conclude that these religions answer questions about life and death. These religions both ultimately serve the same purpose, which is to guide their followers into a positive eternal existence, whether that be in a state of nirvana or heaven. These religions are contrasted by their belief of a singular or multiple lives, karma and consequences, but ultimately are guided by their leader, God or Buddha, who directs them into eternal peace, justifies their being, and simultaneously answers questions about life after death. So that's our show for the night, folks. Join us next time on Inquisitivity.